welcome to Tech presented by KYZEN, where we will explore common cleaning questions and answers. Let's get started. I would like to introduce KYZEN's own Phil Tomasello.
Thanks for the introduction, William. Thanks to all joining in again today for another installment of Tech to Tech. This week, we're going to be reviewing a case study coming out of Automotive Remanufacturing. And if you're familiar with that process, which I'm sure most of you are, there are a lot of products that go through a reman facility that need to be cleaned, repurposed, put back together. And this specific customer, remanufacturing of aluminum heads is what they were doing. And they tasked KYZEN with coming up with an improved process for them. And part of that was to identify a better cleaning product than what they were currently using. The product they had didn't do a great job of cleaning and required a lot of media blasting. And what they wanted was something that would provide better cleaning, less reliance on media, and provide longer bath life. In addition to that, what they were focused on was getting a product that would comply with their waste management processes related to specific chelation. And if we just take a brief moment, if you look at chelation, that really is defined as a process involving the formation of various bonds between chemical compounds and metals, right? Chelator agents are going to trap or hold on to a metal. And it's very important, depending upon the waste management processes, municipalities, regulations, that we can help these customers, because some of those bonds create challenges downstream in wastewater treatment and removal of those metals when a metal can't be removed from a solution. The specific challenge that we're talking about in this case study, a parts cleaning chemistry that was previously used, the customer had just weekly bath change out. It would soil load very quickly, right? And soil loading occurs when there's just a ton of non-volatile residue, a ton, typically somewhere between 4 and 5% NVR, will really create a dead bath, right? It's not able to do any more cleaning. High use of media blast material was creating a lot of challenge on these aluminum heads and insufficient cleaning in general. So specific to the wastewater treatment, what they were looking for is non-chelating chemistries that KYZEN could provide that would speak to specific levels of zinc and copper. Those were the metals in question in the municipality the customer was in. You take a look at the challenge, it was pretty clear. These aluminum heads, you can see a ton of burn-on carbon, right? Just really on there, very heavily packed with carbonaceous smut. A lot of holes, some blind holes in there that you really needed to have a strong chemistry to attack that. We had many conversations with the customer, and after really understanding exactly what their processes were, the current machines, their expectations, working through that lockstep, we found that the 6356 chemistry was the best option. And we asked that they send some small parts to the KYZEN lab for us to trial at our applications lab in Nashville. And that really helped us to ensure that, one, the chemistry would clean the way they needed it to, make sure that we could evaluate the specific free metals of copper and zinc that wouldn't be bonded or held in that suspension. We created the chemistry that we had decided to use for that. This was created as a really strong splitting chemistry. And that is key, because that's going to certainly help anybody, especially in the reman facilities, lengthen bath life. From the field trials, once we got done proving out the applications lab data on a small scale, we had some great parameters to work with. They weren't exact, because no one, of course, can replicate something in a lab it's not going to apply to real world. But once we got some of that data, we started setting up for on-site trials, full scale, large aluminum heads at the customer's facility. And we used the lab results as some great parameters, some general parameters. So we conducted trials for more than 3 weeks at the customer's manufacturing facility with Metalnox 6356. And as I just mentioned moments ago about the splitting chemistry that we selected, the oil splitting is key to bath life, as of many things, but a lot of chemistries out there on the market are emulsifying, right? If you look at the product over here, right, everything's mixed together. If you look at ours, you see that oil splitting, coming to the surface, which is great. So if you have a great oil removal system on your machine, on your washer, you're going to pull that oil out. Again, this leads to a significantly greater bath life historically. So anybody out there, Reman or any other market who's doing parts washing, it's just essential. It's metal finishing related. Just get something that is oil splitting. The better oil splitting the chemistry and the process you have in there with a good oil skimmer will help really provide much better bath life for you. In the field trials that we did with Metalnox 6356, we looked at the temp. We ran 150 to 155 degrees F. According to the concentration here, we monitored concentration frequently, but it did vary between 12% and 7%, certainly starting at 12, working our way backwards. This was in a single tank ultrasonic, 40 kilohertz with vertical agitation, right? And a 30-minute cycle time is what was run. And as we went through it, we again monitored regularly over these 3 weeks there on site, certainly KYZEN and the team at the manufacturer. And we took a look at the factors and made sure the chemistry was in concentration in that range that we were looking at. And then we got bath samples, and we sent those bath samples back for those 3 weeks back to our lab to take a look at the NVR content, the free alkalinity that was there. And we also had those bath samples that our customer provided to their third-party environmental group, those entities, municipality, to review from a chelation standpoint for copper and zinc. The results were great. We're not necessarily surprised in some respects, very happy, certainly that the 6356 Metalnox product tested extremely well in that production cell. Greatly exceeded the customer's expectations. Better cleaning outcomes on the remanufactured parts, which meant reduced dependence on media blast. So great removal of the burn-on carbonaceous smut, did not discolor the aluminum parts, and the customer got extended bath life. They went from 1 week with their prior chemistry they were using, 1 week's bath life, to 3 weeks bath life. So we ticked all those boxes. If you look at some of these pictures here before the wash process, I mean, if you just look at the highlighted areas here of all that carbonaceous smut, all that grease that had to come off, and then after, and you can see so much of this has been removed. These products look great. Another great photo right here. And again, positioning in the machine was also key. Different angles, different areas, certainly keeping in mind that that impingement is going to be different, that impact of the ultrasonics will be different. But the aluminum heads looked great. And customers extremely happy, which in turn made us very happy. So to me, I think you can look at this in maybe in the most simple terms, focusing on efficiency, right? And oftentimes maybe the human condition is to focus on the cost of a product versus the cost of the overall process. if we look at the prior chemistry and you look at the constants, right, the wash tank size was approximately 200 gallons. That stayed the same. Of course, they were using 10% chemistry prior. We are in that range as well. Let's say 20 gallons chemistry needed per change out to get to that 10% concentration on the 200-gallon tank. But just look at the change out frequency. If you factor 50 weeks a year, let's say, of production, it's for simple math, you're going to look at an annual consumption of 1,000 gallons with the old chemistry they were using. And with KYZEN's chemistry that we trialed, greater efficacy, that was certainly reducing that. So the consumption would be roughly 340 gallons, 17 changeouts annually. So, of course, that doesn't factor in, vapor carryout, concentration variation, cycle time changes that might be needed, media material that they're saving on. They're realizing certainly some cost savings based upon this, just the labor change out alone. From these trials, really, I mean, the conclusions are really clear, but from the metal analysis testing that was done by the customer's third party, great success in removing the zinc and copper metal content based upon the wastewater treatment processes. Certainly, everyone was happy with that, and they were ready to go with this. So I say, very successful in the stance that we helped improve the cleaning efficacy for the Reman parts. Certainly, reduction in the need for media blasting significantly, increasing bath life, which was great, from 1 week to 3 weeks, and compliance with the environmental regulations. Those were the key factors. So that gives you a little glimpse into how KYZEN works with our customers to identify all the details, the expectations, the soils, the substrates, the machinery involved, and then trying to match the best chemistry to get those outcomes. Some questions that come up quite a bit, really, in this instance is, hey, 6356 is noted as being a very popular chemistry now for cleaning off real difficult to clean carbonaceous smut. Is it safe for all metals? And it is. It's multi-metal safe. Of course, we showed you the aluminum heads, but steel as well. So multi-metal safe without question. That's something that we do quite a bit of testing on at our lab to make sure that we know exactly how a chemistry is going to react with specific substrates. There are different alloys involved, so it's always good to do testing ahead of time. It's very common for customers to send in small samples or portions of samples to our lab if we need to evaluate. Another question is, how do I determine what specific environmental health and safety regulations apply to my facility? And it's a difficult one, certainly one that KYZEN can't specifically answer. Everybody's city, municipality is different. They all have different governing laws, requirements for manufacturing. So we always tell a customer, look, we'll be happy to provide you with the SDS sheets, happy to run trials. You have the lab samples if you need to send out. But that's something that once we provide the technical data sheets and the SDS to the customer for potential use, they provide all that data to their municipality, to that governing body where they are, and that can be addressed on a case-by-case basis. Another question is, hey, what's the average frequency for bath changeout? And again, that's a moving target, especially in Reman, where you may have, let's say, engine parts that may be on the road for a year coming in, or parts that may be on the road for 15 or 20 years. So the amount of soil load, the amount of soils that are on the part, the amount of burn-on carbonaceous smut, grease, are going to vary very significantly. So that really, frequency of bath changeout is very specific to the amount of soils that are being brought in for that process. So again, something that every organization who's doing parts cleaning needs to focus on And certainly we're familiar with in the Reman side of business that oftentimes our customers will take a look at the soiled engine components and say, okay, these are visually much more soiled than this group. And they'll try to put them in different compartments, if you will, to kind of rate that soil load so they can try to get um, a good understanding of how they may need to manipulate various, oftentimes multiple washers to address real heavy soils versus lighter parts with lighter soils on them. A final question really we get frequently in this case is, how do we develop new chemistries for parts cleaning? This is something that we look at a lot, and certainly KYZEN or any other company can invent new products for any challenge. But when we see from a real large industry standpoint that customers are saying, hey, we've got this challenge, we have these soils, we just can't find anything to remove it. And you continually hear that trade shows, organizations that we belong to, at some point in time with those rather large customers saying, hey, here's a challenge, we don't have a solution, can you help us? At that point, we take a look into that and determine what we can do to help an industry or a market segment to achieve those cleaning efficacy requirements. So that's really all part of it. Thanks again for tuning in for this Tech to Tech. Hopefully this gave you some insight into how we go about trialing chemistries and selecting specific chemistries. Metalnox 6356 really has become a lead product for the Reman industry. So we're excited about that and glad that we're able to help this market segment. With that, I will turn it back over to William. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you all for watching this Tech to Tech session. If you would like to discuss this topic further or have any questions not answered in the session, please contact your local KYZEN regional manager or send an email to tech@kyzen.com, and we will have someone follow up with you as soon as possible. And if you like this video, be sure to follow us on our social media platforms for more expert cleaning content.